Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Every Horror Film, where today we close out the year 2024 by talking about one of the most anticipated horror films and films in general of the year, Nosferatu. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Dude, it feels good to be at this point. We talked about this months ago, and you're going to have to bear with me as I lose my voice over the course of this review. This is going to be a long one, and I'm losing my voice because someone in that theater had the plague. I'm telling you what. But we are here, and we talked about this months ago. We said when we reviewed the original Nosferatu, we said this is the most anticipated of the year. It has finally come to pass, and Providence is all I could say about that.
Providence, that's right. A lot of terms in this film that I will be using now in my everyday life. Didn't think I'd be saying that. But yeah, I mean we've been talking about this movie all year long. We reviewed the classic, the original, the silent film from 1922. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I don't think it's mandatory for you to see this film, but I think it's important if you haven't seen the original. Some
It's
people might not like it, but I think it's important.
it's mandatory for horror fans. It's not mandatory to see this, but it's mandatory if you want to be consider yourself at least a little vetted.
That's right. So I'm gonna say this now. This will be a spoiler review. There will be
Well,
spoilers.
we should talk probably about 5 minutes spoiler free for the
We
folks who haven't
should.
seen.
Okay, that's fine. You get 5 minutes. Other than
Well, you
that,
get 5 minutes, dude.
you've got to subscribe to our Patreon and get the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so we'll kind of get into this. We're just gonna start from the beginning. I mean, like I said, I mean, this was such an anticipated film. I didn't know what to expect. When I saw the trailer, I watched the trailer, I think once, and that was it. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to see anymore. I was very much wanted to go in as blind as possible, which for this movie is quite hard to do if you know anything about if you've seen the original or any of the several remakes, or if you know anything about the story of Dracula. This story has been retold about more times than I can count. So if you went into this film, and I know that kind of bummed some people out apparently, like, I kind of knew it was going to happen. I'm like, well, what'd you expect?
Well,
I mean, we,
duh,
we, we've seen this story 5 million times. It's not about the story, it's about the journey to get there.
as it
So,
always is. You're right. The Nosferatu story, even as a knockoff of Dracula, I mean, it is tried and true. I know that it's been rehashed, and redone in unique ways, but you can't complain about story beats from 1922. Actually, be before that because it was Bram Stoker's book,
yeah,
which came out I think 1800s. I don't even know,
yeah,
but you can't complain about story beats when it's one of the first stories ever. That's not a valid criticism to me.
yeah, absolutely. I did see some of that, but for the most part, there's two camps in this that I've really seen. I see people that really, really love this movie a lot. They think it's the film of the year. They think it's the horror film of the year. They think it's, one of the best things of 2024. I've seen people that say, yeah, I mean, it's good, but I don't really think it's that great. I haven't seen anyone that really hated this movie, at least anyone that I really subscribe to. So I think you either really like it a lot, you love it, or you just think like, it's a good movie, I'll move along.
Well, what camp are you in?
Oh, I am in the camp of I love this movie.
Yeah, dude.
I liked it a lot. I don't know. I need to see it one more time before I can really say I love it, but I really, really like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've already seen it twice. I'm quite jealous.
Buddy, we saw it on the 26th, and I went home that night and I said, find someone to watch the kid. We're going Saturday. It doesn't matter what we have to do. We'll go at 12 noon. And that's what we did. We went at noon. I'm like, we're going to see this immediately because you are not going to believe what I just saw. When immediately upon first viewing, when we got out of that theater opening day, my mind was made up. This is, and I'm going to say this, and I stand on business when I say this. This is not just horror movie of the year. This is movie of the year for me.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
Movie of the year.
Alien Romulus was my second most anticipated, and I love that movie to death. But I knew it. I was waiting for this movie months and months ago. I was talking about how anticipated I was for it. and I was nervous. I was nervous because there's no way it's going to live up to the expectations that I'm setting. There's no way that a modern remake is going to blow me away. I left this theater and I said, cinema's alive. Cinema's alive and well.
It's
That is the reaction.
alive.
That's the reaction that I had.
Yeah, it was so we went to see this together day after Christmas. And so it has been today is Monday at the recording of this review. I can't tell you the last time I've had a movie where it's been 4 or 5 days after I've seen the movie and I'm still thinking about it. It's been a long time since I've had that feeling. And this movie created that feeling for me.
Yeah, haunting is what this movie was. Dude, I could not stop talking about it, and like trying to tiptoe around some of the most critical parts of it without giving away, like, I don't want to say surprises, but the good bits of it.
Hmm.
Oh my god, I was like, can we just go, please? Because I need to talk about this to somebody. And dude, this movie, there is something intoxicating about this movie, like you said. There is just something supernatural about this movie because, oh my god, I don't remember the last time a horror movie made me feel the way it does about this.
Same. I have to say the same thing. I mean, I really feel the exact same way. I texted you. I said this movie, one word to describe it, intoxicating.
Yeah.
Just
Mm-hmm.
something about the movie that just makes you think about it a lot. And
It
there's so many things to get into. It's crazy.
There's something for everybody. The casuals, the hardcores, the self-proclaimed cinephiles. Dude, I this movie made me love it, and I always have loved and I always will love, but this movie really reminded me why I love cinema, why I love movies. This got it, man. This was, oh god, such brain food, man. Such I left feeling full and happy and satisfied. This was like Thanksgiving dinner for film, dude. I don't know. I can't describe it without getting into the spoilers, but it's just so there's something magical about this.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna give you my quick spoiler-free review for anyone that hasn't seen this movie. This is my little bit here. Go see this movie. There you
That's it. There you go.
go.
Quick and dirty and to the point. Go see this movie. If you've seen the original, it's going to be not shot for shot. It's going to be the same story beats. You
Mhm.
know the ending. There's not going to be any surprising twists, and that's okay. That's a very good thing. I will say that one of the major criticisms I'm seeing right now, and I felt it a little bit too on my first viewing, was about pacing
Mhm.
and how some people felt that the first half was a masterpiece, but the second half just dragged. I felt that way too when I first saw it, but I'll explain why later when we get into the spoiler section. But upon my second viewing, when I knew what I was getting, wasn't an issue. So you'll see what I mean in a little bit when I talk about it. But
Mhm.
the only criticism I'm really seeing is the pacing, and you're going to see why that's not really a valid criticism to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's one of the main things that I've seen as well is that a lot of people say, "Hey, the movie's really good. You know, if you trim off 20 minutes, it'd be even better." Um, uh, I think at some points, yeah, it maybe did drag, but it really wasn't like, "Oh my God, is this movie gonna end?" Like it felt, yeah, maybe they could have cut out some extra, a few minutes here and there, but I never felt I also knew going into the movie that the runtime was 2 hours and 15 minutes. I know it was going to be a long movie. Maybe some people they just I'm gonna go see the movie they didn't know it was going
How
to be this
long
long.
was it?
2 hours and 15 minutes. That's what it said
15?
online.
Dude, the Batman was 3 hours, and this movie felt like it dragged so much longer than that.
The
I
Batman is so long.
I understand, dude. I understand the criticism. Just trust. I'm gonna explain to you why it's not really an issue.
Just trust. All right, so this is your official warning. We are now going to get into spoilers. I repeat, we are going to get into spoilers. If you have not seen this movie, go check it out and then come back. All right, action.
Action.
Here we go. I don't know if this happened to you the second time you watched this movie, but was it? I said this to you whenever we got out of the theaters. Did the movie just like start instantly, and I was like, "Wait, is this the movie?"
The movie dropped you in, and it gave you no context on what was happening. Started with a jump scare,
Yes, very good
and
jump scare.
honestly, that opening sequence By the time the rest of the movie played out, I forgot about it. It was only until I get to the second viewing that I'm like, oh, that's what we're watching.
Hmm.
Oh, it wasn't just a dream. I understand. So the movie opens up with dude, it sets the tone right away, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got the day for night, you got Lily Rose Depp doing the A24 face in the camera, you got just atmosphere, you got a beautiful set piece. It's moody. There's dialogue. There's Shakespearean writing. It's you start to see like, oh, a shadow in the billowing curtains, and
Hmm.
Lily Rose Depp is doing something, and she's going out to the yard, and she's talking with this voice, and this voice, this opening 10 seconds, is the first glimpse of Bill Skarsgård's performance that you get in this movie. Um, it's riveting going from a silent film antagonist to having no idea what to expect in terms of voice. You
Yeah.
know Bill Skarsgård. You obviously know Pennywise. You know, God forbid, The Crow. You know some of the other stuff that he's done recently. You think you know, but then you hear this voice and you're like, that's not him. There's no way.
So what you're saying is until
Until you've seen Nosferatu, until you've seen Nosferatu, you do not understand.
yeah, man. Let's I don't even want to really jump around the plot like our normal reviews. I just
It's the
want to
same
talk
plot as
about
the other one.
yeah, it's we'll talk about certain scenes and then we'll kind of go from there. But let's start with some of the casting. I've never seen Lily Rose Depp in anything. I heard a lot of people were like, "Oh, she only got this role because of her dad." Blah blah blah. I was like, I don't know. I've never seen her act in anything, so how can I say? Dude, I think she was phenomenal. I mean, I think she killed it. I mean, I she did a really good job. I would be quite shocked if she wasn't nominated for anything. I mean, I'm not saying she's the best actress of all time, but I mean, she had to do a lot of different things in this movie. She had about five or six different like emotions and things that she had to go through from being herself to being like sad, mad, happy, and then like the possession scenes and then the scenes in bed. And it's just like, there's so many different things she had to do, but I think she did all of it fantastic.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm not familiar with Lily Rose Depp. And what nepo baby doesn't get a job because of their dad, dude? But I was not familiar with her acting ability, but she is the first of many in this movie that when they got the role, dude, they doubled down. Oh
Hmm.
my god, the casting in this movie, the casting was good, but the acting I've never seen, at least I had not recently seen delivery like that, dude. They went 120% on all this. Lily Rose Depp did. She's the main character throughout the entire movie. And she kind of jumped through hoops. You kind of feel like she can get annoying at times, and that's the way it was written. It's intentional to feel that way. But
Hmm.
yeah, I was pretty impressed with her. I don't know her body of work enough to compare it against what she's done before, but in terms of seeing her for the first time, nice job.
Absolutely. I thought she did a fantastic job, and we'll talk about her more. She's pretty much, like you said, the main character in the film. Then you've got Nicholas Holt, who was her husband, Thomas Hutter. I think he did. I've never seen any of these people in anything other than the two doctors, Willem Dafoe and the other guy with the really really
Ralph
deep voice.
Ineson. Yeah.
Well, Bill Skarsgård too, but you can't even really tell it's him. If you watch this movie and you're like, "Oh, that's Bill Skarsgård," you're full of shit.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to him.
Uh,
Nicholas Holt is he's building a real portfolio for himself. He
mhm.
in recent years he's played Tolkien, he's played Lex Luthor now, and now he's played in this. He has experience with period pieces, European accents. I don't remember if that's his natural accent or not, but he has experience. I've seen him in the comedy show on Hulu, The Great, which is kind of a similar period piece. And Nicholas Holt has done a phenomenal job delivering on that. I'm going to say Shakespeare like 5 times in this video. I don't
Yeah.
have a better word for it, but you know what I'm saying. That old school 1800s colonial England,
Oh yeah.
that that way of talking, that accent, those mannerisms. the thing that you hear and then you immediately want to like do a cheap imitation of yourself, dude. He is so good at that. Nicholas Holt, I think, Skarsgård aside, I think is my favorite actor of the movie.
Yeah,
He
I liked him a lot too.
carried that shit, especially in the first act. In the second act, he was kind of blended in with the other actors, but dude, Nicholas Holt, you need to win an Oscar for this immediately. If it's up to me, you're getting an Oscar.
Oscar, wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think he did a fantastic job as well. I mean, all the acting in this movie was good. There's not one person I was like, get off my screen.
Yeah.
I really liked him, and especially in the scenes where he is in the castle, as you can see here
Mm-hmm.
behind me,
Yes,
with
Transylvania.
Orlock. Yes, that those scenes were fantastic, and that's the scene I was looking forward to the most in the whole film was that like 20-30 minutes they spend of him in the castle, because that's my favorite of the original as well. Is when he first meets Count Orlock. I love those scenes. He did a great job. Willem Dafoe killed it as the crazy kind of scientist slash I'm trying to think of the best word to describe him. I don't know why I can't think of it.
A
Uh,
cult professor or something like
yes,
that.
a
Vampire
cult.
hunter a little bit.
Yes, he specializes in the occult and black magic and all this stuff. He's the only one that can figure this stuff out, really. And then you got the other family, who's like the guy who just played in Craven, which a lot of people are like hate that movie, and I was like, I didn't know this was the guy that was
Aaron
in
Taylor, yeah,
Craven.
Aaron Taylor
Yeah,
Johnson. He's kick ass, and he's a couple other things that are like not really like prestige film.
yeah.
Um, but Aaron Taylor Johnson, I would say probably is the one that I don't want to speak badly because they all did a bang up job. They all did infinitely better than I could ever do. But I would say if there has to be a weakest link, gun to my head, I would probably say Aaron Taylor Johnson. He seemed a little out of place, but that's mostly because he shared the screen time with Ralph Ineson. Ralph Ineson, he was in The Witch. I'm
Yep,
pretty sure he was in the first Omen. I'm pretty sure he's going to be Galactus in the next Fantastic Four movie. This guy, this guy's voice,
it's the best.
that's the voice of God. Okay, any period piece, any mid-century, any like colonial England, live in a cobblestone village, anything like that. If Ralph Fiennes is not in, I don't want to watch it. Okay,
Nope.
this guy, this dude, straight out of that period. This guy delivers it like he just showed up on set and just ad-libbed everything. This guy was so good acting. He my second favorite because dude, absolutely nailed it. What a perfect casting, obviously.
When I watched the first Omen, anytime he talked, that's all I wanted the film to be, was just him talking. I was like, this is great. I don't need
That
anything else.
voice, dude. That voice and the accent and the way of speaking. It's so like, yeah, this belongs in The Witch. This belongs in Nosferatu. This belongs in anything that came out of the 1800s.
Yes, he does a fantastic job. Then you have his wife. She does a really good job too. I mean, the whole cast is great. Like you said, Ralph Ineson and Willem Dafoe, and then you've got the I can't I'm not sure the actor's name, but the guy who was Thomas's boss, Knock, who ends up
Uh,
turning into Renfield, the Renfield character,
yeah,
basically.
I've seen him in some things. Yeah.
I mean, he did a great job playing that kind of psychotic, crazy role. So the acting is great. And the next thing I'll say, and I've seen everybody say this, but if it's true, it's true. I mean, the cinematography in this film, whew, man.
That is the next thing it has going for it. But we didn't spend time on one particular character, and it's the one everyone's itching to hear about. We got to talk about it. It's the elephant in the room. Let's talk about him. Orlock, come
All
on,
right,
lay it on me. Orlock, you knew what he looked like 100 years ago. You had no idea what he was going to look like here. Tell me your first reaction when that man showed up on screen.
perfect. They killed it. I
Really?
have no complaints. I have seen, again, I will say spoiler just for the people. Lots of people complaining about the mustache. I thought it was amazing. I love the look. I love the sound. Everything about him. 15 out of 10. Perfect. Chef's kiss.
Dude, Bill Skarsgård's getting an Oscar. It's got to be. It's Providence. This guy, I had no clue what they were going to do. I figured I had it figured out. I figured he was gonna look like the rat, you know, he was gonna have the
Yeah.
two fangs, he's gonna have the pointy ears and the long gangly fingers. But what I did not expect is this towering, mustachioed Russian gentleman. Dude, what the hell? For the first like three quarters of the movie, I'm like, are you serious? This guy was nuts. He was enormous. And the mustache, dude, I didn't believe it the first time I saw it. I didn't know if I was supposed to hate it, but I just didn't. It seemed like, I don't know. It's interesting that they went the more Dracula route with this, with
Yes.
being more of the suave gentleman, more of the romantic type. But the mustache kind of, I took some getting used to. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. By the time he got to the city, I was expecting him to have just like it just fall off or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was surprising to say the least. Towering in the castle, towering in his big Russian fur coat and Russian hat. Yeah. Holy shit. And the accent too. I mean, Bill Skarsgård is on record as going. I think he received like opera singer training
Hmm.
in order to lower his octaves of his voice enough to do this character. And he had to warm up for like 30 minutes every day to do this. That's cool. A low voice, that's a low booming voice. That's really cool. What I did not expect was a low booming voice speaking Latin with a Russian accent. Doug, I can give you half of one of those things, maybe. But he did all three at all times. Unbelievable. I mean, I don't know what I expected for the voice, but dude, that blew me away.
This was gonna make or break the whole film, was how they got the character design and the look and the voice right. I mean, if it wasn't good, it was gonna break the whole film.
Oh yeah,
I think they killed it. I love how they went because I've never read the original Dracula by Bram Stoker, but from what I've been told, he in that iteration he has like a mustache and he's like kind of
mm-hmm.
like the suave. Not like we got like the complete suave version here like Bela Lugosi. I mean we got a
Right.
mix of a little bit of everything, but they really went with the traditional folklore of what Dracula's supposed to be, from like this Romanian nobleman who's like this count who's like hundreds and hundreds of years old, and he's got, the deep accent and the mustache and just kind of the clothing that he wears. They very much got that down to a T. And that's something that Robert Eggers really likes to do in a lot of his movies, is the historical accuracy of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they nailed that. They nailed the voice. The first time you hear, I like whenever we get to the scenes where he's leading up to the castle, which it's all great. And then once they finally open the first door and you see him like standing off like in the shadow, it's just like they did in the original. I'm like, oh, can't wait. And
Yeah.
then they start walking, and I'll try to do my best impression here. He's like, "You've kept my servants waiting," or something like that.
Dude, it's right,
It
dude.
just was so like, oh, it
It's
was so
so
good.
just not what you expect. And it fits, it works. Dude, the second time around, I knew it was coming, but when Hutter was cutting the bread
Oh
and
yeah,
he cut his finger and the blood came out, and
classic.
it's the first close up we get of Orlock. Dude, I kind of like busted out laughing when it zoomed in on this guy's face, and in just like the deepest, most like surly Russian accent, he goes, "Oh, take heed what you do." Dude, I thought that was so funny to me the second time around. I don't know why, dude. It was just so intense for no reason, but
Oh my
I love
gosh.
it. I came home saying that a whole bunch. I was like, "Take heed what you do,"
Oh
but
man.
the accent, I think a lot of people are going to be doing their best impressions of Warlock for a little while.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It just they killed it with the design of the look. He killed it with the voice. I mean, like I said, it's like I've heard this comparison a lot, but it's very true. Like whenever you watch the Batman and the Penguin, if you didn't know that was Colin Farrell, you would know it was Colin Farrell.
Right.
If you watch this, you would have no idea that was Bill Skarsgård unless you read the poster and it said Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok.
And honestly, that's the way to do it, man. I mean, that's it really, I think it challenges the actor. You know, I think it challenged Colin Farrell. I think it challenges Bill Skarsgård, I think it challenges Christian Bale when he plays the role of Dick Cheney. I think
Hmm.
when they have to when it's one of those characters where you'd never know it was that actor unless you were told, dude, those kick ass every time. Like
Yep.
if I looked at it and I was like, all right, it's the Crow and Pennywise at the same time. I get it. I would have been taken out of it, man. If they really just wanted to show you Bill Skarsgård's face like they did in a couple movies, I would have hated it. But Bill Skarsgård literally, and I hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it, disappears into the role, dude. You'd never know it was him. Huge hulking figure in the fur coat. Skarsgård wore heels. He wore like platform heel boots, obviously to be towering. I don't remember Orlock being that tall in the original. I thought he was kind of like small and frail.
He's tall and lanky, kind of. I mean, he's not like 7 foot, 8 foot tall, like hulking, kind of
Yeah.
like he is in this film in a bit. Which a lot of the scenes they shoot, they kind of like shoot it up where it like makes him look like really imposing. But yeah, I mean, they killed it, man. I mean, I don't know what else I can say.
My favorite moment of this first Orlock and Hutter exchange in the main eating area, that whole scene. There's one aspect of this, and I'm going to hit on it as a category, and I'm going to hit on it as an example here. One of my favorite things, everyone's talking about the cinematography and the casting. I'm a huge sucker for sound design. The sound design in this movie, and it's partially because I saw it in the theater, which you should do. The sound design in this movie was some of the best I've heard recently. Absolutely insane, like Dune levels. In the examples that come to mind when Hutter is journeying to Transylvania and he loses his horse, um, and the he's walking along the dark road in the woods, and he sees the carriage come up with the big black Clydesdales, and they're coming up, and you hear just the booming, the thundering, the bass, the footsteps, the hooves of the horse. It's a heartbeat, like it's a really dreadful heartbeat sound until they get up close to him, and then it cranks and the carriage pulls up and he's staring at it, and you get the scene where the carriage opens the door for Hutter. Now this is a good opportunity for anyone in sound effects to like, okay, AI generate me a squeaky door sound, and
Yeah.
plop it on the movie and goes like real creepy, right? No, Eggers plays with the negative space. There's zero sound as the door to that carriage is opening up. And that shit is so much more powerful than any other sound effect. So Eggers knows when to put the sounds, what sounds to put, and when not to put the sounds. Now, the reason I say this is because you get to the point where they're in the dining hall. Orlock gets up from his chair, and immediately you see his height compared to Hutter's. And Nicholas Holt, a tall guy, you see his height and you see his big, like stocky shoulders and the coat hanging down, and you hear him walking, and he's got these big, booming, like boot steps on a stone floor, like dun dun dun
Yeah.
dun. Like every single step that he makes is this huge, booming, bassy footstep. Like this guy weighs 500 pounds. Come to find out later, this guy's maybe 75 pounds soaking wet. This guy's bones. This guy's got
Yeah.
no leg muscle whatsoever. He's as frail as all get out. So where is the booming coming from with the footsteps? It's coming from a director who knows how to make something sound more imposing than anyone else would. The booming footsteps when Orlock walks away, knowing that he's frail, that was killer to me, and I had to shout that out because that was one of my favorite moments in the movie. Is his footsteps.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then one thing I'll add to that is like with the sound and Orlock, whenever he breathes, it's very like
Like bronchitis, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like Darth Vader, but like he's skipping a few beats.
No.
It's
Yeah,
like
right, yeah.
it's so, it's great. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the whole that's probably one of my favorite scenes. Well, there's so many favorite scenes I have, I can't even say that. But I really like those scenes when he first gets to the castle when they're inside having like dinner or whatever, and it's really dark, and all you can have in the background is just the flames like the fireplace, and you can't they're still kind of hiding his face a little bit, and It's just, man, living
It's
in that
perfect.
that living in that scene just, ooh,
Dude, I have no notes. The tension that Nicholas Holt was delivering with his acting on his face, the dread, the
yeah,
sound, I got no notes. When it cuts to the next scene of Ellen walking on a bright beach, you really feel like turning off a ceiling fan after being on all day. Like you recognize the absence of it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's really like contrasting. I mean, dude, 20 out of 10. I could not think of a note if you paid me.
absolutely, absolutely. What'd you think of like the set design? I mean, everything just looked like literally like, hey, let's go shoot a movie in the late like 1830s. Okay, let me pick you up and just drop you into this setting. It was that good.
Dude, the set design, fantastic. The props, the costume design, dude, art. Everyone who worked on this movie loved working on this movie. Obviously there are some external shots like going up to the castle, which are CGI,
Hmm.
and like a broad sweeping shot of what's this city called? Blissburg?
Visberg.
Visburg. The sweeping shots of Visburg, I think, were CGI, but all the interiors were practical. And that's art. That's the way it should be. They nailed it. And like you said a little while ago, Robert Eggers, The Witch, The Lighthouse. I haven't seen The Northman, but The Northman. This guy knows period pieces. This guy literally hops in a time machine and says, "All right, I'll be back in 2 weeks with a script." And he does it, man. The Witch nailed it. The Lighthouse nailed it. I'm sure The Northman nailed it. And it was all leading up to this. The cobblestone floors, the wrought iron fences, the campfires, the statues within the fireplaces, the village in Transylvania, the gypsy village. Dude, I need notes. I need a note, and I have no notes to give. It's unbelievable how well of a job they did.
Yeah, I mean they did an incredible job, even with the background characters, the people that aren't the main focus. They just get everything right. The gypsies in the beginning, whenever he's walking to Transylvania and he's walking to Orlock's castle, and just the people in the background, the rats. I'm assuming from maybe from a few scenes, but they use real rats in this film to do a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, everything they did, the clothing, the pieces that I mean, this people back then didn't just put on a t-shirt and go out in public. No, I mean, we're talking layers and layers of clothing and just all this stuff and all this jewelry and just I mean, it takes a lot to get that stuff right, and
Yeah,
they did it.
dude, corsets and umbrella dresses and dude, an undershirt and an undervest and an overshirt and an overvest and a handkerchief and a neck piece and a coat and a top hat. You know what I mean? Like layers upon layers to cover up the stink of not taking baths. Dude, I'm not a big period piece guy.
Yeah.
Any genre, if it's got them talking in a British accent about royalty or tea at high noon, miss me with it, dude. I don't care. I nothing puts me to sleep faster. But this, I did not I did not get a whiff of pretentiousness anywhere in this movie.
No.
Usually, when you're dealing with the Downton Abbey knockoffs and you're dealing with the old timey, you get what I'm saying.
Hmm.
When you're dealing with those kind of films, oh, it just is so smug with the accents and the delivery. But here, I swear to you, these guys just got ripped right out of that period. I believed it every second of it. I was engaged. I understood it all. It wasn't just like over your head. You just don't get it because you're not smart enough. You're not classy enough. Dude, I loved it. This is the first period piece film that I'm actually crazy about.
Yeah. I I actually like a lot of, I guess it depends on who's doing it. Like, a lot of series, like I really like the series Adams came out about John Adams a few years
Yeah.
ago. It was on HBO. Stuff like that I can really get into, historical stuff. Some of it can be a bit dry and a bit boring,
Mm.
but this was perfect. I mean, I was they did a great job with this. Robert Eggers, I mean, this is what he does best. I mean, he does these period pieces phenomenally. I mean, he takes history very seriously. So, um, let's talk. I know the plot isn't the biggest thing, but let's kind of guide the story along and kind of pick some parts that we like there. So basically, if you don't know, or if you've seen the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, basically it comes down to this newly wedded couple, Thomas and Ellen. They just get together. Thomas works for a real estate firm, and he is tasked to go sell a piece of property to this count, this old count in Transylvania. It's a long, long travel to get there. His wife doesn't want him to go. Whenever she leaves, she doesn't act right. She's kind of, got some stuff going on underneath the surface. And whenever Thomas goes to the office to go get the paperwork and all this stuff, his manager Knock, the owner, is kind of like, like this would be really great for your career if you go and
Mm.
do this. Like, I know it's a lot to travel. Why can't he come here? But you'll make a lot of money. Blah blah blah. But it's like whenever you start a new job and your boss is like, hey, I know this doesn't seem ideal, but if you
Sticky
do
with the
this,
dirty work. Yeah.
yeah, but if you do this, you could be part of the firm. You could be
Oh,
an owner. You could
you'll
be a
make
manager.
partner.
Exactly. And
No.
so he's like, all right, I'll do it because he wants to do well. He wants to provide for his new family. He wants them to have a nice house and all this stuff, like a typical person would. I love immediately how Knock becomes like possessed by Dracula. It's very much like in the 1922 version. I was going to ask you was, do you think he already was possessed before he got the letter and like he knew he's like, I'm gonna do this just because I know I'm gonna serve the count. I'm gonna serve my lord. Was he already possessed before then, or do you think he got like a letter from Orlock and like read it, and all of a sudden he became possessed by that? Or do you think this is all sort of a part of the plan?
So I think that Orlock figured out that Ellen and Thomas were recently married. And I think that he started to develop the plan to get to Ellen that way by getting to Thomas first, which is to get him to go out to Transylvania through Knock. So I think that Knock, during that first exchange where he gets the job, Knock is already doing Orlock's bidding.
Correct.
Probably for 2 weeks prior to that. I mean, we get the scene at the end where Willem Dafoe is investigating his office and finds like the shrine, the skull and bones inside his cabinet, and the rug is all carved, or under the rug is all carved up with like the pentagram or whatever it was. So yeah, I think Knock was putting on a facade, and he was already doing Warlock's bidding before we get introduced to him. I think in the original silent film, we see Knock get the letter,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we
Correct.
get we get that day zero of Orlock and Knock, but I think day zero happened the day before we open up on Knock.
I agree. I agree. And this is kind of to bring up another point that, why is some people ask why is Ellen drawn to Orlock or why is he drawn to her? You really don't catch it unless you've seen the original film, which I don't even know if they really do in the original or not. It's kind of spontaneous, but in the beginning when she's the opening scene when she's like crying for help or asking for basically, she she is a little bit different and she's asking for someone to kind of accept her and accept her for what she is, and that spawns Orlock into her life unknowingly.
Yeah. So this is something that I pretty much pieced together on the first try, but it took until the second try to really understand the angle. Once you include a crucial piece, which is that opening sequence, which we wrote off as just like a dream sequence right before she
Hmm.
woke up, and you're supposed to. But upon second viewing, you're like, oh, that's the origin story.
Yep.
So it basically this whole I'm not sure how much the book is about this, but we're going to talk about this movie. This whole plot, if I could boil it down to one sentence, Orlock and Ellen have a forbidden love that blossomed years and years ago, and Orlock wants to get it back. If I could boil it down farther than that, this movie's about sex. That's all it's about. And you get a lot of that in the first viewing, but once you start listening and you start like theorizing, you really realize that this whole script is about sex. So the opening sequence is not a dream. It's a flashback of when Ellen was feeling. She explained it later on at the end to Hutter. She explained that she was feeling alone once her mother died, and she was calling out for somebody, anybody, and this spirit, this guardian, heard her and was drawn to her, and she pledged herself to him, and that's how that blossomed. And Willem Dafoe backs this up by saying that people with lower animal functions, sex, are these demons, these creatures are these spirits are more drawn to people like that. So Ellen, I'm not sure if it was like a childhood thing or a late development thing, was a very promiscuous teenager. Let's put it that way. And so she was like exploring herself, and that was basically like a welcome sign for Orlock. Um, so that's what this whole thing is about, and that's why once in the opening scene, once Ellen says, I pledge myself to you or whatever, so she starts moaning, and I wasn't sure that she was moaning the first time I watched it, but then you realize, yeah, she's moaning, and everything that Lily Rose Depp does in this movie beyond this point, once it gets into the possession, once it gets into the manic episodes, once it gets into everything, you start to notice that it's all about sex. Every movement, every thrashing, every chance she gets, she's like in a position that would be like, oh, look away. Oh, dear. You know what I mean? So that's all this is about. This is about how that is an opening for malevolent spirits. And I didn't really get that the first time around, but now I'm like, oh, I got it. Wasn't like that in the original, I don't think, but they really hammered that in.
I think you're right about a lot of that to a certain extent. I think obviously when you watch the movie, you'll pick up on that type of stuff. Um, and she's kind of promiscuous in a way about certain things, and she just doesn't feel quite like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
When she's having these conversations about how she's feeling, and like, have you ever felt like something inside, like about you know what I'm talking about, certain things like that. And we do get a lot of those type of scenes, but I think a lot of people are taking what you said is right, but I think a lot of people are maybe taking it maybe a bit too on the nose about, oh, it's
Also,
just about sex. I just I think it was I think I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent. I think it was more of, yes, she's lonely as a child. She can see like these spirits and demons, kind of like a malevolent force or whatever, and she's asking for help, someone to feel normal with, and she awoke Orlock. And Orlock himself is, in anything about Dracula, is like a sexual deviant. So I think she has some of those like underlying like desires, but I don't know if it was so much like they have a unforbidden love for each other. Like she knows it's wrong, he knows it's wrong. And I think once she ends up marrying Thomas, I think she figures out like, this is what I really want. I don't need this thing that I asked for when I was a younger teenager or kid. And I think obviously that pisses him off, and that's why he kind of comes after her. So I agree with what you're saying, but I also look at it from not as like a, she's trying to express herself in a way, just more of like it's something that kind of happened.
like she
I
was
don't
a
know if that
victim.
a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, what you're saying is right though. There's a lot of those like undertones, and I'm especially in the 1800s. A lot of women, they weren't supposed to act like that. They weren't
Right.
supposed to talk about these thoughts and these desires and things that they had. So I think you're right. There's so many like undertones and things in this movie. You can take it forever you want.
It is kind of open to interpretation. I think you're probably right. I think she because in her flashback story that she explained later on, she said that her mother died and her father like wasn't there or would like have to go find her. So she was calling out for something. And maybe you're right. Maybe she's calling out for love and Orlock found her instead. In a lot of the interpretation comes from the scene towards the end where Orlock and Ellen have their first face to face in
Hmm.
the bedroom. And she starts dropping seeds about what really happened, and it's never actually like over exposition explained. but she starts dropping hints of like, I was a child, and
Yeah.
then and she's like, you could never be capable of love, and he's like, that's true, but I am like a hunger you can't satisfy or something like that. So
Hmm.
I think you're right. I think she was reaching out for love, and Orlock found her instead, and that's which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came
Yeah.
first, promiscuity or the Orlock? So
Yeah.
that's I think you're probably right in that.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely multiple ways that you can take it, and that's definitely one of the major themes in the story. Um, all right, enough about this sad shit. Let's talk about some scary stuff.
Dude, right? Isn't this a horror movie? I thought it was an
It,
1800s romance, you know?
it is, man. It's very much like you can watch like I I'm not gonna say this is the scariest movie ever. It's not. In a lot of ways, it's not really like scary. Like there's some good moments that really get you. Believe me, there are. But I also enjoyed this film as just like a gothic like horror love
A
story in a
gothic
way.
tale. Dude, Sweeney
And
Todd or whatever.
exactly. And you know what? A lot of people don't like Halloween Ends. I did. I actually liked the love story, the story between Corey and Allison or whatever. I think it worked for the movie. So you can work if it's just a horror film you like it as that, that's fine. If you like it as like a gothic like tale, it's nice. If you like it as like kind of a love triangle story, you can like it as that. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can like the movie. Um, so yeah, let's talk about some of the scariest scenes. I mean, I'm trying to think of them all.
So another big gripe I hear from people is that, yeah, you're right, it's too Romeo and Juliet. And I think what you said is correct. It's stupid to write off a movie just because it's got a love story in it. It can
Yeah.
work well. If anything, it can elevate stories like it did here. It's the whole reason for the story. You want a Nosferatu movie without love, you're not going to get it. You want 30 Days of Night, you go watch 30 Days of Night. Okay.
Well, yeah. It's
It's Warlock's whole motivation is the girl. That's it.
well,
You
that's in any Dracula story for the most part. I mean,
That's
that
it.
literally is the story. I mean,
It-
you could get like just a haunt. Like let's just say like for the sake of like making a scary movie, you have this guy goes travel to this castle, this demon comes back, vampire comes and haunt him, and then they kill him. Like okay,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's fun, but like
You get some jump scares and that's it. There's no tension. There's no
there
stakes.
there's nothing, yeah, there's no stakes. I mean, why do you think everybody cares at the end of the movie? Because they want to see, they want to see them destroy Orlock, and unfortunately well, they do, but not in the way that everybody wants. So you got to have tension, you got to have characters you care about when bad things happen to them.
Yeah, it's stupid to write it off because of love, but it is a horror movie. Some of the first horror things we get a lot of jump scares, and I'm not criticizing that. But some of the strongest aspects of the movie are not jump scares.
Yeah.
Obviously we get the jump scare at the very, very beginning where he like grabs his throat, and then you get the jump scare in the Transylvanian like gypsy
Mhm.
village where they stake that vampire. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Who were they staking? Was there a second vampire?
I don't know if it was like just another vampire that they found, or if maybe it had something to do with Orlock, like in like earlier years. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I kind of didn't understand that myself. But that gypsy scene, I'm glad you bring that up. I feel like there's something more there that I'm not like picking up on. Like I know in the original he comes to like he's like, "Hey, I'm traveling to the castle." They're like, "No, no, don't do that." And then he
Right.
leaves and it's like not really a big deal. But in this movie they make it a bigger deal, a lot bigger deal. Um but I love that scene where he pulls up and they're all dancing and stuff, and then they start laughing at him.
Yeah. Yeah, no outsiders here. They all know about the castle. They know about local legends and vampire lore. Hutter
Yeah.
doesn't. Hutter has no idea. The purpose of this scene was it obviously it's going to teeter on the was it real or was it a dream? That ritual of bringing the naked girl out as a sacrifice and then staking the vampire. So that whole sequence, it's implied that Hutter woke up and saw that. And
Hmm.
then it's also implied that he woke up and it was just a dream. So you never know. But dream or not, the purpose of this scene, because Hutter has never had experience with vampires, Hutter
No.
has never been familiarized with these ideas. And obviously, the people in that village know how to kill a vampire. The purpose of this, dream or not, was to give Hutter the idea about a stake through the chest, because otherwise he'd never know.
It's
You
true.
know, if he's seeing people who know what they're doing stake a vampire through the chest in a coffin, that's how he's going to know that that's what you have to do. He's going to copy those people, dream or not. So I appreciate that. I appreciate this scene, and I appreciate the because otherwise, if you remove this scene from the movie and Hutter's just like, I'm going to drive a stake through his heart, it's like, why is that the first? Light him on fire. Why is that the first
Yeah.
thing you think of? But it's what gives him the idea. So I appreciate the scene.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a really good scare, like whenever they stake the vampire with the knife and he grabs it or
It's
whatever.
loud
And
and screaming. Yeah,
yeah.
dude.
And then he's like, stop. And then they all turn around and look, and then he like wakes up. It's great. Great
Yeah,
scene. Um, there's I tell you what's a scary scene. Playing pool with no holes in the side
dude.
of
All right. I was so excited to get to this part. So Aaron Taylor Johnson is banging two cue balls on a pool table with no holes. I was so distracted the first time I saw that. I said, "Is there no holes on this end of the table?" That's all I was looking at, and I was waiting for the
yeah.
camera to pan out. And then it cut to another view of the room. I see the whole table. There's two cue balls and a red ball, and no holes. Bothered me. I'm so glad other people noticed that because what?
I can't find anything else online about it other than that Reddit post I sent you, where apparently it's a form of billiards that they used to play back then.
And that's just
That's
what
it.
that guy on Reddit says. Who knows if
Yeah.
that's even
Who
true?
knows if it's even true?
And I guess there's a painting with two cue balls and a red ball and a table with no holes. I guess I'm gonna need to. Hey, Robert Eggers, address this, please. Because why does that pool table have no holes in it? That's
Please.
wrong. That's very weird to me. I don't like that. I saw Orlock's penis in this, and that
Yeah,
was the most disturbing thing in this.
absolutely. God, let's talk. You bring up Orlock and disturbing scene. In the original, so in the original, when he first travels to the castle, he has the interaction. He cuts his thumb. He's kind of like, this is really weird. Like, whatever. I'm gonna go in the chair and go to bed, pass out or whatever. In this one, it's way more intense. Like he gets there, and it's just like creepiness levels are. I mean, could you imagine like doing this, like going up
No,
to this castle
stranger
and
danger meter's off the chart, dude.
like I'm immediately off of myself and jumping off top of the castle.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
it's
that's
over.
it. Bye,
It's,
bye. It's gone.
bye.
It,
So, good luck, wife.
and and he's sweating and he's screaming. He's sitting in that chair.
Ooh.
The statues in the fireplace are turning their heads, looking at him.
Yeah.
He's sweating. And he wakes up the next day and he's got some holes in his chest. Now that was something that was done in the original, obviously, but the teeth marks. It was three on the top and two on the bottom. Now we could chalk that up to just the angle that Orlock took. In the original, I think it was two on top, two on bottom, right? The tooth
I
holes.
that's what I was gonna bring up is I think in the original it's just like two little small like
That's
fang
it.
bites. It could very much be mistake. Obviously we know it's Orlock, but it could. Oh yeah, I got like a bug bite or something on
Well,
me. I
that's
don't
what he
know
said in the original. He said the mosquitoes are crazy out here.
exactly. But dude, if I wake up and I've got like six like things on my chest, I'm like that ain't no fucking bug.
No, I'm out of here. No, this guy bit me.
This
Like,
guy bit me, and it happens a few times in the movie, and the one scene, you know what I'm talking about, where
wow.
it zooms out and it's Orlok on top of him, and he I don't even want to make the noise make me,
You
but
can't, dude. You can't make the noise,
he's sucking the blood out of him, and he's
dude.
like gyrating and moving around. I was like, oh,
Dude, it like some kind of like organic, squelchy, meat-filled pump. It
literally,
was it was weird, and another one of those sound design moments, man. The teeth. I was hoping to get a good look at his teeth
yeah,
because in the original film, Orlok had two fangs. His two front teeth were his fangs, and I
mhm,
said in our review, I don't really like that. I feel I'm of the idea that vampire teeth need to be the canines. I
in
think
the
it's very
back,
weird
yeah,
to have it in the front. I was hoping to get a good look at his teeth, but this whole movie went by, and until the very last moment, I don't
Mhm.
think we saw his fangs at all.
Not that I can remember. I'd have to go back and watch, but yeah, not until the very end where he's, all the stuff's happening. It's like you never really see it.
Yeah.
Um, you got that scene that's great. All the scenes in the castle were great, and then we finally get the scene where he's walking around and he discovers Orlock's sarcophagus. Which,
Mhm.
by the way, I kid you not. So if you go on NBC's website, they're selling like merch for like Nosferatu. So before this review went on, I wanted to look. I was like, I might buy a shirt or something. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just want to look. Did you know they are selling a life-size sarcophagus for $20,000?
That's it.
That it's a replica of Orlock's. I don't know like how actually like how big it is actually, but if, for $20,000 you can buy one.
Dude, if it's not just a Rubbermaid box, I might actually buy that and tell my wife to bury me in that. That's nuts, actually. That's like a little bit more than a regular coffin, dude. I might
Exactly. Like you
I,
might as well just
I
do
just
it.
found my eternal resting place, dude. It's a Nosferatu merchandise.
Exactly. See, I saved you some money. I went ahead and bought it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm
How
looking
nice,
into that right now.
how nice of me. Look it
Yeah,
up. It's wild.
that is
Um,
wild.
and we get the scene where he finds them, and you know it's coming because we've seen the original, and it he opens it up and he sees him there, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna kill him. He's gonna go for the stake automatically in the heart. He's seen it in the dream, and then Dracula wakes up, stops him, grabs it, comes out of the coffin, and then his pecker's hanging out.
There it is. Yeah, dude. The pivotal shot of the movie, dude. Just full frontal Orlock, dude. And that's the first real full body shot we get of him, and it is full
Yeah,
body. We'll talk about his appearance in that in a second, but I just got to point out why on earth was Orlock alone in the castle for however many centuries, sleeping next to the one thing that could kill him?
sunlight.
No.
Ooh.
Hutter looked 2 feet to the left, and there was the pickaxe that he could use to stake Orlock in the chest. Right next to where Orlock was sleeping, Hutter's like, "Oh, a pickaxe. That's convenient," and picks it up.
Maybe it was a setup.
Hey, that's that better be the explanation because other than that, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, maybe it was a setup. Maybe he was like, I know he's gonna try to kill me. I'm gonna put this down here
Boy, he got his timing real good,
so I can jump scare him with my penis.
dude. Dude, right?
Yeah. So that scene's great, and then he runs away, and um, I think he tries to escape at that point. I can't really remember, but basically at this point in the plot, he's gone to the castle. He's trying to sell Orlock this property, which he does. And I saw, and I this didn't really come up in the original. You just kind of saw the paper. You didn't really read it. I knew from the beginning when he opened that paper, that contract, and it was all in this like language you couldn't understand. I was like, bro,
Mhm.
that is not the contract for the house.
Yeah. And I think in the opening where Knock was telling him about the job, when it pans over to the map where it shows Transylvania on the map, you get a glimpse of the contract, and
Mhm.
then Knock like makes a point to like cover it up with another piece of paper. But
Mhm.
yes, that contract was not for the house. It was for sacrificing his marriage vows and handing over his wife to Orlock. And yes, it was in the language of my forefathers, like he said.
Yeah,
And
that's go ahead.
yeah, and Hutter was unsure about it, and he was like teetering on the fence there, and then Orlock pulls out this big heavy treasure chest, and with the clicky locks from the 1800s, that ASMR sound design, and he picks up a bag of gold and he drops it, and Hutter caves, and he sells his wife.
Yes. You know what? What a deal.
What a deal! You got a bag
What
of
a deal.
coins,
Yeah, that's not that bad.
dude. 2 bags at least, though. Come on, man.
All right, come on. Quit being stingy. Hand over the other
Yeah,
bag.
yeah. Come on, hand over 3 more coins, please. Come on.
Yeah, so at that point, he's essentially signed her away on accident because they bring this up later. and basically he's been left for dead. Orlock leaves the castle. It's time to he's bringing the plague. He's on a ship and he is on the way over back to Visburg. I got a question for you.
Mm,
This town is set in Germany, correct?
right.
Why does everyone here have English accents?
Thank you. I didn't want to say it, but it's it's suffering from the same fate that the Chernobyl series did, where it's a series about real Russian people, but everyone's got an English accent. Yeah, it's I guess, and why are they native? They're all native English speaking
All
in
of them.
1800s Germany. Come on, I know some
Interesting.
are, but they're all Englishmen. Come on.
Like you maybe could have just said it in England and can made some. I mean, it's not really like a big deal to me. I don't care that much.
I
The
actually
movie's
don't even
still
think
great.
I don't think there was any German in that movie.
I, I, I don't. Maybe like from the gypsies, or maybe like I
The
don't know.
gypsies were over by Romania and Transylvania
Yeah,
and all that.
I don't know, man. It's
Yeah, if I, you know what, you could forget it and just make it England. You
it
know what?
insists
It
upon itself.
insists upon its location. It was England to me. Whatever.
Anyways, so yeah, they're on the way over there, and while all this has been happening, um, Ellen has been having these. They call it melancholy, which I'm assuming back then was a form of like what they call depression, basically.
I think it was. I think melancholy used to be a sickness a couple hundred years
Hmm.
ago. I think. I don't know.
I took it as like depression, kinda, and just
Yeah, mood swings, something like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And she's having these like episodes. She's having these dreams, these visions, and she's been left with the other family and the doctor, and they're like trying to figure out how to contain her, and they're tying her down, and they're giving her ether or whatever. I'm like, God,
Yeah,
giving
dude.
this. Hey, inhale some of this gas and go to
Well, the
bed.
doctor, Ralph Ennison, later on, Aaron Taylor Johnson offers him a cigar. He says, "No, thank you," and he does a bump of coke.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, we're a healthy community.
Yeah, we stay healthy around here. So you've got that going on, and basically, it's it's going to end up being a duel between the three of them about who's going to live, who's going to die, who's going to be saved. And I think one of the best parts, one of the best sequences in the movie, and I see some people they didn't like this, but I loved it, was that they come back, they're all there basically, Orlock, Ellen, and Hutter, and we get this scene where like you mentioned earlier, it's finally Orlock and Ellen together in the room for the first time, and they're talking, and he's like, "You have 3 days to,
3 days.
yeah,
Yeah.
three." I'm like, "Oh, 3 days!" Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so it like to basically like succumb to him or whatever,
Yeah,
and
she
so
has to
he
go by her own free will.
correct. So she leaves, and then we get these like crazy like sequences. So I think the first one is where it's Ellen and the other girl, and they're like, she's like, "Hey, like, would you mind if like I like slept with you tonight? Have someone keep me company?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." And then she's sleeping. She has these dreams. Something I can't remember exactly what happened. Something like crazy spooky dream wakes up, and then she looks over, and the girl is on the side of the floor, just getting all her blood sucked out by like 15 rats.
Dude, covered in rats, dude.
I was like,
I'm
holy smokes.
being eaten. How is she
Yeah.
alive? And at this point, the plague had obviously come over on the ship. The ship sequence was a little underdeveloped to me. I did
Yeah,
want to see.
man.
I want to see a little bit more. I want to see some Orlok kills on the ship, but I didn't get any of it.
You're right, because that was one of my favorite parts of the original is the ship scenes were great. Like
Right.
you got the classic like rise up scene, and then you got all the guys like getting sick from the plague, and them like freaking out about like you get a little bit of that, but not enough. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's something I guess that's my only critique about this movie, I guess. But yeah, they really could have amped that up a little bit more, made it like really sick and cool.
Yeah, and coincidentally, this is the point in the movie where or a lot of people, myself included, the first time around, were kind of like,
Yeah,
"All right, let's get there." You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
and ironically, those go hand in hand, I think. But the plague ship thing was well done. Need to know how that coffin got on there in the first place, but we don't really get that answer. But the plague arrives. It's a plague ship. It's a plague ship. I love that line. But yeah, the rats are in town. They start eating on her friend, and they're trying to devise a plan about what to do. And the Aaron Taylor Johnson's, what is his name, dude? I cannot remember his name.
I think it's is it Franz? No,
Yeah,
is it?
some with an A. I don't know.
I think it's Franz.
Frederick. His name is Frederick.
Friedrich.
Friedrich, yes, Friedrich. So Friedrich's wife is getting eaten by rats, and they're healing the next morning. And Friedrich kicks Ellen and Hutter out. Um, and at this point, Willem Dafoe and Ralph Ineson are trying to come up with a plan to stop Orlock. Um,
Bro, first off, tell me how his wife didn't die from the plague like instantly after that.
wow,
She lived. She was like, "Oh
dude,
yeah, I just got eaten by rats. Like it's all right."
she's got zero time left, dude. That was insane because people were dying on the streets there,
Dude,
but
yeah, like you get a cold back then you die. And she's like getting eaten by like
literally,
15 rats. She's like,
yeah.
"Oh, like I'm just bedridden. I'm all right."
And this movie is, yeah, we had the sequence with Orlock and explaining their connection and the deal and all that the night before, but really between the time Orlock leaves the castle and this morning, we don't see him a lot, and that's where a lot of people are griping about the movie. And so we are overdue for a scare, and it
Oh,
is that
brother.
it is that second night that we finally get our long awaited next scare. And I'm gonna let you take this one away.
Man, yeah, I think I picked up on this, and I just want to make sure because you saw it twice. So there's a scene where Friedrich and his wife are sleeping in bed. Did Orlok say like go to sleep or like you do not wake up?
Yeah, he said wake not, and
Yeah,
like put Friedrich under a trance so he couldn't
yeah.
wake up.
So there's like some noise or screaming or whatever happening like outside in like the kids' room because they've got two kids. And this whole movie, I mean, they really make you know that Friedrich like he loves his wife, he loves his two kids. Like those are like they hammer that point in very much. And um he puts a trance on him and he can't wake up, and then she goes and tries to wake the kid, wake him up, and then she goes and opens the door and there's screaming, and I'm like, man, like what could this be? Like I got no idea, bro.
I thought we were gonna get shadows.
Bro, I thought we were they went there.
Hey, listen. At this point in the movie, I had already made up my mind that this movie was getting 3 out of my 4 golden rules.
Yep.
It had not pushed any boundaries that I haven't seen before. They did this sequence, and without a shadow of a doubt, and I said, "Oh, you won! Oh, you won!" It game over,
He starts eating the kids basically,
and
and
you see it.
and you see it in the shadows, but you see it, and it's like I remember in the theater I was like, damn. I was like, they. I
Everyone
looked at you.
stopped breathing,
I was
dude.
like, dude, they went there. They did that. Like, holy.
Oh, the theater went silent. Everyone was holding their breath.
Yeah.
I figured it was going to be like a shadowy hand of like a child's silhouette going into a mouth or something stupid like that. Dog.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm going to say it again. Until you have a child, until you have a child, dude,
Man.
absolutely. Now, I've said this before. My last golden rule is push the boundaries. Okay. Earlier in this movie, we have a scene where Knock bites the head off of a living pigeon.
Yes.
Um, and through some clever filmmaking, obviously he trades out the pigeon without you ever knowing. But and that it's gushing blood and it's nasty. He ate a pigeon head. It's
Yep.
gross on screen, but that's not a boundary that needs to be pushed in 2024. This has
Correct.
been done. It's been done a lot worse 30 years prior. So I didn't give it that rule. But I have always said, and it's questionable that I say it this much, but one of the last remaining boundaries in filmmaking is violence against kids on screen.
Yep.
It It 2017 did it with biting Georgie's arm off on screen.
Mm,
There are other movies that do it, but this movie did it. It
yes.
did it, dude. And with the two girls and biting the neck and throwing the body down and then throwing the other body down like it was just a limp sack of potatoes. Dude, my jaw dropped at that scene.
Yeah.
I've seen some shit, but yeah, I wasn't ready for that. That's gonna get me every time, dude. Didn't
Yeah.
that sealed it for me, and I think it sealed it for a lot of people too. I think I read online that overwhelmingly the peak of the movie is that sequence, and that's obviously my peak.
I, I
Dude,
told you when I walked out of the theater, I was like, dude, I already liked the movie, but then when they did that, I was like, oh fuck.
that takes balls, dude. And
Yeah.
and and there is an alternate universe where we're doing this review right now, and I said if you had just shown me the violence, you would have gotten this rule, but they did it, and boy,
Yeah.
kudos, dude.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that happens. At this point, the whole town is wrecked by the plague. This German town where everyone speaks English
Yes.
is ravaged by the plague. I also love in the background they did this. In the original, they make it very prominent where people or the houses where people died, they went and drew a cross. They
Mm-hmm.
did that in this movie in the background. And
Yeah.
another thing in this movie, it's just very like the hospital is overrun with people. You've got dead people just laying on the side of the road. You got people dying from the plague, just like you know, it's crazy. And another thing, another question I have, which I mean, doctors were only so advanced back then. You've got these people that they were examining, like in the morgue, that died by the plague, and they're like kind of up and looking at them, like, I wonder what's this. Like, is that's probably not the best thing to do? Can't you catch the
No,
plague by doing that?
in a time period and location where people don't bathe but once a week, maybe, and that's only the upper class.
Yeah,
Really, the best thing they could do is quarantine.
yeah,
And I'm glad that the plague was handled the way it was in this movie, where it wasn't like we got this really gratuitous shot of like panning throughout the street while people were like stumbling and throwing up like a zombie movie. I'm glad we didn't get that, dude.
yeah.
The plague was the setting and not the story element, and that's why it's really good. But yes, you're right. He's like, look, here's plague infested rat bites here and here, and Willem Dafoe with his monocle is like looking at it like right up to his face. Yeah, it was kind of
He's just smoking his pipe. He's like,
that's the doctor that did a bump of coke earlier, so I can't really hold it against him.
he's like, I'm good.
No.
Yeah, at this point, the plague has ravaged everybody. Orlock is in town. They don't quite know where he is yet. And Renfield Knock is with him. He's his servant. He escaped the prison. Um, Basically, the kid and the wife die, which they don't really show how the wife dies. Kind of like off screen. Orlock just kind of like walks up to her, and then
That's
it's
the
like,
off-screen kill. Yeah,
yeah. So you don't really, which again was blew my mind because okay, yeah, you died by Orlock, but shouldn't you have died earlier when the rats were just like eating?
yeah.
But whatever. So at this point, we get this really, really sad scene, man. This was a sad scene where they're kind of all in the carriage. They're talking about what they need to do, and then they can't find Friedrich to go to. They're gonna go kill Orlock basically, and they can't find Friedrich. Basically, he ran to where his family was buried, and he opens the coffin, gets inside of it with his wife. Yeah, I don't know if he did or
He
didn't. I
did.
don't know. Okay, well, he did. It's just like, man, and he's dying of the plague and he's throwing up, and it's just like it's a really sad scene. You feel really
Yeah.
bad
Mm.
for him and his family, but at the same time, not obviously he didn't deserve it, but if he would have just listened earlier to the doctors, if he'd have listened to Willem Dafoe, if he'd have listened to Ellen, he he did not believe in there being a vampire, a Nosferatu, a spirit, demons. He didn't believe in that. He was like, I'm a shipman. I'm smart. This isn't.
Yeah. And that's his whole arc. His whole arc is not believing anything and everything being true, and especially twice now, or at least once to him, his kids told him there was a monster in the bedroom.
It's true. A lot of foreshadowing.
Friedrich pays the price in this movie for not believing anything. And as soon as he does start to believe it, when Hutter shows him the bite marks on his chest, That's when he makes up his mind. He's like, okay, I'm gonna believe this, and he gives up immediately. So
Yeah,
that's his whole story. He gives up immediately and goes and dies with his wife. So it's really tragic, and he doesn't believe Ellen. He doesn't believe the doctor. He doesn't believe Defoe. He doesn't believe Hutter. He doesn't believe his kids. He just that's what you get for not believing. I'm sorry to say it, but that's what happens.
this is a horror movie, sir. Don't you know the rules?
Dude, but your wife just got eaten by rats in your bedroom, and you're still not going to believe this yet? Come on.
So that happens, and so it's just the two doctors, Ellen and Hutter. They're like, "All right, we got to make this happen." And so they're talking about their plans. They're in this carriage. They're talking about what they're going to do later tonight. Uh, Willem Dafoe and I think the doctor's name is Franz Willem Dafoe. I think so.
I think so.
Something Franz. I don't know. He walks up. Now you know that Willem Dafoe cutaway in Family Guy where it's like Stewie's like, you better have a Willem Dafoe under your bed.
Dude, he's like, hey, you
You
asleep yet?
sleeping
Just
yet?
checking.
Just checking. So they basically go and they're on the steps. It's him and Ellen. They're talking, and he's the only one that really like understands her. That like what she's going through because he believes in all this stuff and he's
He
seen it.
believes.
Believes and he's seen this stuff. And they basically, in a long roundabout way, say he's like, you know what you have to do, right? And she's like, yeah. And so she has to sacrifice herself to kill Orlock and to um, end the plague of the town of Visburg.
Yeah.
And basically, he says, in an old day, you'd be a high priestess, a very clairvoyant, someone that could do a lot of good, which she can. But he's like, in today's modern world, not as much. And so basically, Willem Dafoe's character kind of tricks Hutter into going to stake Orlock, knowing
Yeah.
he's not going to be there. Um, do you think that was wrong of him to do that, or do you think it's like, I this is what we got to do?
That's what we got to do. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously it's wrong because you want Hutter to win.
Yeah,
But I mean, once you realize that's the only way out, there's no way Hutter's going to allow that to happen if he's in the room.
correct.
So unfortunately, it's just what you got to do.
Yep.
It's that's the sword he's got to fall on is to trick Hutter to go across town while his wife bumps uglies with the vampire. It's just what it is. And
Uh, yeah. And so basically, he's over there. He's trying to stake the vampire. They stake him. Turns out it's Knock inside the coffin, the sarcophagus. And so, and then Willem Dafoe does crazy, saying some crazy shit, and he sets everything on fire.
of course,
And then you've got Ellen preparing. She's all dressed up, ready for Orlok to come to her. And he comes to the room, and you're like this. She basically sacrifices herself, and by doing this, she ends the plague. And this is the part that I've seen online that's honestly really kind of pissed me off a little bit. And I got to go for a quick rant here. And this is why I made the point earlier about everyone saying the movie's about sex. Like, yeah, it is to a certain extent. People are like, you're telling me that this lady, the whole movie, all she cared about was just having sex with Count Orlok? I'm like,
mm-mm.
no, no, that is not the point of this movie. You have completely missed the plot. She is. People are like she's giving in to her desires. She's promiscuous. I knew she was bad. I'm like, no, she's doing this because she knows this is going to trick Orlok into staying up past the light, past the cock of crows, what they call it, or the crow of cock, one of the two. He dies by sunlight. They say it multiple times in the film. He's not seen sunlight in forever. Willem Dafoe says it. He's like, he cannot be seen in sunlight. He has to be in his native soil by then, or else he will perish. People are like, "Oh, she's in the bed, like making the noises." I'm like, yeah, I get all that, but it really, I don't know why. It kind of made me mad that people thought that she was like enjoying this. There was some sort of
No,
like love triangle, like she wanted Orlok all along. Like, no, like to a certain extent, maybe, but not in the way that I think a lot of people are seeing it as. I'm like, she did this to set him up to die because light kills him.
yep. Yeah, it's she set a trap. You know, it's not, dude. It's not Twilight. Okay, she's not into the vampire. You know, she's dealing with her curse, her melancholy, which is, paying the price for her promiscuity, in early age and inviting that kind of evil into her life.
Correct.
And that's why Orlock says, "You're not for this world. You're not for the living." And Defoe says, like, "You might have been a high priestess, but here you have a bigger purpose." Like, it's finally like, after so long of just like nobody believing her that there's other forces at play,
Hmm.
she is making the sacrifice play, and doing what she has to do. And she's doing it because she has to do it. I don't think at the end of the movie she's doing it because she wants to do it.
Yeah.
In the flashback, yeah, she did it because she wanted to. But her arc is the fact that she no longer wants to. She has to. And that's the price that she pays, in order to save the town, in order to save Hutter. So that's it. Yeah, she grows. She grows as a character. She's not the same promiscuous teenager she was in teenage years.
Correct. So she gives in, sacrifices herself, and then we get this really crazy intense scene, which is really the final scene of the movie. He digs into her, he's sucking her blood and all this stuff, and you get a scene of Hutter like running across town, and he's trying to go save her, and they walk in at the last second, really, and we get this freaking sick shot of, or really the first time you like see like everything in the light because everything else is in shadows, and he's just it's just melting like his face, and then he just like gives out this like big scream, and then he just like kind of like disintegrates into like his body and just like collapse, and they both die on the bed.
Yep. Yeah.
And by doing that, the curse is lifted. Orlock is dead. She is unfortunately dead as well, and the plague is ended, and the town is set free. Now, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good thing, but if you're Thomas, you're like, well, my wife's dead. My best friend's dead. His wife's dead. His two kids are dead. There's a lot of other people that are dead. But hey, yeah, I'm alive.
And the last thing that happened to my wife is she was done. So
Shit.
it's very shitty to be Thomas Hutter. But
Poor guy.
that sequence is intense. You get your first full light shot of Nosferatu, and you get to see him in all his creature glory. And obviously you get the ceiling shot where you see his body laid on top of her, and he looks like the rat creature from Defoe's book. Um,
He's all upper body, no legs.
Dude, he is Joe Swanson, dude. He's got just bone legs and
It's
it's all chest. It's
it's
so funny.
wild. When they
Dude,
were like zooming out, I was like, wait, what?
dude, who was stomping? That's when I looked at it, I was like, this guy wasn't making big stomps in the castle. But so what did you think when you finally got a daylight shot of Nosferatu?
Oh, it looked great. They killed what? I wasn't really pay. Was that CGI?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay,
It was enhanced by CGI. It wasn't
yeah,
totally CGI, but you could tell by the way the blood was flowing and the skin was stretching. It was enhanced by CGI, of course. But then it was practical effect laying on top of her.
yeah.
So yeah, it was really good. I feel like people might teeter the fence on that. Not story wise, but maybe just like CGI wise, getting their first good glimpse of it, and it's kind of like uncanny valley, too smooth to believe.
Yeah.
Um, the you know what? Completely lost my train of thought. I was replaying the scene in my head, and I was just kind of watching him snarl there. But the movie kind of ends right there. And
Yeah.
for anyone who's seen the original film, that's how it should be. There's nothing else
Literally.
after that. That's
Yeah.
it. So
Um,
your complaints about the story beats, hey, take it up with the guy 120 years ago. Okay.
yeah. Take it up with that guy, okay?
Right.
Um, and they hit a lot of the classic in their own way of Dracula, like the shadow going across the
Mm.
stairwell, and they hit all a bunch of the classic shots of him standing in the doorway and coming like they did all that in their own way, which is great.
That's what I was going to ask you, because we said in our Nosferatu review the two iconic shots: him poking through the doorway like you see in SpongeBob, and then the shadow creeping up the stairs. Now, I expected this movie to do a full recreation in 2024 glory of that exact shot. I expected that. And we didn't get that. We got a variation of it. And
Hmm.
people who have seen that film can point it out when you see it. But if you haven't seen it and you don't understand those shots, you blink and you'll miss it. So, were you satisfied with the version of the shots that we got here?
I was. I like the fact that they didn't make it a bigger deal than it was. Like, hey, look, we did the shot, you
Yeah,
know?
he did it. He said it. He said it.
Like when Willem Dafoe says
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
He said it.
I think they paid homage to it and they did it in their own way, but it didn't like take away from the film. It's just like, hey, like we're gonna do the thing, like it's all right.
Yeah.
And they did it in their own unique way. It was fine. I think it didn't need to be anything more, anything less, because you know if they didn't do it, I probably would have honestly forgot. But I'm glad they did. I'm glad they threw it in there. It's a nice touch.
Yeah. It is homage and not just pandering, you know.
Yeah.
So that's that is Nosferatu 2024.
Man, Nosferatu 2024. All right. Well, we could probably go on for another like 6 hours. Like we
I'm
really
ready.
didn't
Let's do it.
even we could like there's so many things we didn't even talk about. It's like the Exorcist review. Like we could just keep going on and on and on and
It's
on and on.
brain food, dude. You get so much to chew on. You have to see it multiple times. Let's talk about your strongest likes and your strongest dislikes.
Man, things I like the most. I love God, there's so many things I like. First off, the atmosphere, the mood, the cinematography, just perfect. Everyone's already said it 100 times, but I'll say it again. The scene where Hutter's walking through like the dark forest and he meets him at the four lane road or whatever in the carriage. I mean, just
Perfect.
perfect. When he gets to the castle, he meets Orlock for the first time. Perfect. When you see and hear Orlok for the first time, because that's what I was waiting. That's what everybody was waiting for. You're like, I want to hear what he looks like because they kept him away in the trailers. You
Yep.
barely saw anything in the trailers, which was perfect. You want to hear and see what he looks like. They killed it. I love the look. I love the sound. The acting, phenomenal. The set pieces, phenomenal. The setting, the atmosphere, the mood, phenomenal. There's not really much that I guess I could say I wish there were more maybe scares in the movie, but that's okay that there wasn't. It's not like I'm going to this movie like I didn't go to this movie saying this is going to be the scariest movie of the year. No, I didn't go
No.
there for that. I went to it because I liked the director. I knew it was going to be atmosphere. I knew they were going to have great story, acting, mood. Everything else is going to be. There will be scares, but it's not this. I'm pissing my pants in the theaters. There's so many scares. No, maybe another scare or two here or there would have been cool, but that's not really a big deal for me. Maybe adding to the ship scene a little bit, maybe taking some of the other stuff out and kind of drawing up that ship scene would have been
Mhm.
really cool, especially at night on the water and everything. But other than that, not knowing what type of billiards they're playing with no holes in the damn corners,
I will
that's
not
it.
rest until I figure that out, dude. That is bewildering to me. I'm not gonna rest until I figure that out. I cannot find any information on that as of right now.
So I gotta do like a Q&A with Robert Eggers one day and just like,
Dude,
hey,
explain that pool table to me, please.
I don't care about anything else. I just need to know this. And then you
I,
answer that, and I'm gonna get up and walk away.
that's the only thing I don't understand. Yeah. Um, I mean, what more could be said about the cinematography? It's the best this year. Beautiful. How did you feel about the day for night, the black and white
I
filmmaking
loved,
homages?
I loved it. I loved it. I feel like I say that about everything, but it was great. I liked it. I liked the
I,
black and white, man. I liked the day for night. I mean, it was great.
I loved the title card, Nosferatu, and you can
Yes.
tell that it wasn't text on screen. You could tell that it was a screen overlay by the way it was jiggling, like old school filmmaking, like an old silent film title card. You could tell that it was analog. So yeah, I like that. A lot of the dude, it's really just a love letter to like film noir and
Yes.
old school filmmaking. I mean, it just obviously the grayscale, but the the framing, the positioning of the actors in a shot, the writing, the set design, some of the effects, old school film style effects, the hand gliding over the CGI village, the hand was practical, so absolutely love it. The I said earlier, the sound design, top notch, dude. If you didn't see it in the theaters, you need to hear it on a good sound bar. Um,
Yeah, that's something I will say. You gotta see this movie in theaters, dude.
have to.
Like, yeah, obviously I'm gonna buy it on 4K
Oh
when it
yeah,
comes out, but this is one of those movies where people ask, "Oh, yeah, should I go to the movie? Should I wait?" No, this is one of those movies you gotta go see in the theater, dude. It makes it
yes,
so much better.
yeah. When we saw it the second time, unfortunately the theater was sold out, so we were sitting next to like a group of three teenagers who thought it, who thought like they needed to chuckle at every semi-serious scene.
Yeah.
Hey, PSA, real quick. Let me just stop the review real quick. PSA: if you talk and chuckle in a movie theater, you're an idiot. All right, back to the review. I like the
Back to the
I like all the things that everyone is raving about. My highlight of the movie, obviously, is that fourth golden rule acquisition. That scene with the kids, top notch. I can't think of the last time I saw something like that. Um, so glad that they did it. Robert Eggers, I am not familiar with the Northman, but I'm sure he did a great job on it. I'll say that out of The Witch, The Lighthouse, both of which I've seen, and this one is just better than both of those combined. Um, yeah, those are my likes. One thing I was surprised about was the amount of sex, or at least the sex allegory.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I talked about Lily Rose Depp's movements and how every scene where she's like convulsing, like her legs are spread, obviously, in a way that 1800s damsels would not be. That was all very intentional. The corset and the bondage allegory to the bed, and even the homoeroticism, both ways, from Orlock sucking on Hutter in the bedroom when Hutter's laying on the ground and Orlock is quite literally straddling him and making the weirdest sucking noises you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
And then the more subtle, leaning the other way, of where Ellen was like, "Is Friedrich back? Can I sleep with you?" And looking at each other in a way that only a husband and wife would in the 1830s. So
Yeah.
that was a little more subtle about it. The amount of that shocked me. Um, I would say that my dislikes in this movie, few and far between. The pool table, obviously, hate that. Um, I would say that the weakest aspect of this movie for me, the only times, and it happened twice, and the times where I'm like, all right, is when Lily Rose Depp is rolling her eyes back and doing the possession thing.
Oh yeah.
So, look, Linda Blair did a good job 50 years ago. Who, and I mean literally who, is getting scared of a grown woman rolling her eyes back and talking in a little demon voice about death? Who is getting scared of that? I don't think it makes a lot of sense story wise. Why would Orlock possess her for that couple seconds just to warn people in the room that death is coming? And then doing the smile face, like the with the rolling the eyes
Yeah.
and the convulsing, like he is coming. Dude, who is that for? Who is scared by that? I don't know a single soul on earth who would find that scary. I honestly think it's super hammy. I really, really hate possession scenes like that. You're gonna need more than that. That I would subtract that from the movie in a heartbeat. Um, but Lily Rose Depp did good with the material she was handed. Um, but that's it, man. I don't have complaints about this movie. The sound design, the shots, everything else. This movie is everything I hoped it would be months ago. So, do we even need to rate it? I think it's pretty obvious, right?
I mean, I just want to brag on it just a few more times before
Let's
I
do
grade
it,
it.
dude. I love this
Uh,
movie.
but yeah, no, you're right about and I think I said that to you when I walked out of the theater. I was like,
Yeah.
the possession scene is kind of like, do you need that? I'm like, whatever. But every movie can't be perfect. You got a couple little things here and there. But if that's the worst part of the movie and it only lasted like 2 seconds, like
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. Um,
Mhm.
So let me. This is my last
Dude, get on it. We waited
breakdown.
all year for this.
Here we go. Here we go. Since I was in college, the first time I ever watched Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, 1922, I fell in love with this movie. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was when I figured out they were going to remake it, I was like, wow, I can't believe they're actually going to remake this film. It's over 100 years old. Obviously, it's been remade in countless other iterations numerous times, but to have this director, Robert Eggers, and to do this period piece, someone that's really going to do it justice, I was very excited and I was nervous because I didn't know how it was going to come out. But I'm such a fan of the original. It's a silent film that a lot of people haven't even seen before. I love Count Orlock as a character. To me, 100 years later, still scary as hell. Um, the movie itself, absolute classic in cinema and horror history. To have this movie be remade for, I hate seeing this word, modern audiences.
Modern audiences.
Gosh, it's like what's the guy that does the reviews where he says that all the time?
Critical drinker.
Yes,
I watched that one.
modern
Yeah.
audiences. But to have this movie made to be this good, to be this scary, to be this intense, to be this intoxicating, to be this dark, to have this love story, to have this all this stuff combined and just into one. The acting is phenomenal. Count Orlok is scary as hell. They killed the design. I don't care what anyone says. The design is amazing. The voice, perfect. The acting by the rest of the cast and crew, perfect. The set design, perfect. The darkness, the shadows, e- everything. I mean, they just killed it. I mean, and I knew going into this movie exactly how the movie was going to go. And I still loved it. I knew scene by scene by scene pretty much how they were going to do it. And they did. And it still was amazing. I mean, I could go on for another 3 hours about this movie and do more in depth and talk about it, but what else can I say? Go see this movie if you haven't seen it. Even if you watch this review and you haven't even seen the movie, go see it because we've only talked about half of it, maybe. This movie, I'm gonna have to see it again before I could bump it up anymore. But for right now, this movie is an A. It gets an A.
Nice. Nice. Beautiful. Dude, and now are you surprised that it came out this way? Or did you always have that confidence?
I always had a confidence because of the director, Robert Eggers. I haven't seen The Northman. I've seen a little bit of the White House, or not the White House, the Lighthouse. But I love The Witch. I think The Witch
Hmm.
was really, really good. But there's certain directors, when you see someone's going to do a movie, you're like, oh, I feel good about that. I feel good about it. And that's how I felt. And even after seeing the trailer, just the little bit that I saw, and the cast that was involved, I knew it was going to be great. The only thing that really, obviously, I was nervous about was Orlock because that's going to make or break the film. If the
Yeah.
villain sucks, your movie's dead. But man, they got it so right. And the voice that just they killed it, man. I couldn't ask for anything better. And you don't even really see him. Half the time you see him, he's in the shadows. You never really get too many good looks at him. And even if you go online and try to find like still images, you can't find any.
Right now
They're
you
hard to.
can't.
You can't do it. So what I'm thinking of is like basically what I remember from the movie. There's like maybe like two or three shots on YouTube of him for like half a second. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm still thinking about it. And Lily Rose Depp's performance, I haven't thought about a performance in by an actor or actress in this much in a long time. I just think she just did that good of a job. Really, really did. It really made me. I've thought about this movie every day since I've been to the theater. It's been Thursday. It'll be a week. Tomorrow's Tuesday.
Yeah. Dude, the more I think about it and the more I hear you talk about it and the more I replay it in my head, this movie has got the secret sauce. It's got all the secret sauces. There's not a secret sauce that I'm looking for that it doesn't have. Um, damn it. This movie's amazing. I'm not gonna lie, dude. This movie is phenomenal. I'm
It's like whenever we tried to put The Exorcist like not number one, it's like nah, I can't do
I tried so hard to
it.
beat The Exorcist, man. You just can't. Um, this movie is a love letter to historical filmmaking, but this movie, and I'm gonna sound a little melodramatic when I say this, but it's what it is. This movie has absurdly refueled my faith in filmmaking and has reignited my passion for cinema. It was never dead, but knowing that knowing that this is where the bar is now, I I have never been more optimistic about horror than I am this year. And let's talk about this year in general, man. We had Alien Romulus. We had a couple, I'm not even going to go into it. We had a couple other ones, but everything just hit different. Everything just delivered. There were some strong punches this year. We are out of the 2000s, dude. It is game time. You show up or you get out, dude. It, horror and horror directors, it's never been a better time to be a horror fan, I think, except maybe the late 70s.
Yeah.
I am so in love with cinema again after watching this movie. And I've never felt that way after a new movie. Obviously you watch some classics, they're classics for a reason, but a new release that made me feel this way. I mean, Halloween 2018 made me super amped to bring back what I love. But dude, I'm super like starry eyed right now about what horror is going to be now. There's another movie coming. There's a remake of Frankenstein coming out with Andrew Garfield, I think.
Yes.
Gonna check that out. Got some big shoes to fill there. Um, I am super, super, super excited about the next 5 years in terms of horror, and that's not even looking at what's coming out. I think Hollywood's going to learn a lesson. I think movie audiences are going to learn a lesson. I feel like the age of A24 horror movies is kind of starting to fizzle out a little bit, and now it's just prestige films. That's how this movie's making me feel now, and this, damn, it feels good to be a horror fan right now. Dude, this and have a horror movie be movie of the year. Get out of here. But let's talk about the damn movie. Skarsgard, buddy, get an Oscar, right? First of all, get an Oscar. Second of all, that that is what makes kids want to stand in the bathroom mirror and dream of being an actor. Okay. Nicholas Holt, that makes me want to go and recite Shakespeare. You guys killed it. Absolutely. Eggers, phenomenal. You are about to be handed movie after movie after movie, dude. Remember Taika Waititi's run about 7 years ago? That's about to happen to you. You are about to have some gold fall into your lap. Big fat bag of gold you can use for selling your wife. That's what's going to fall into your lap. Robert Eggers, you're on the way to the top, man. I cannot say enough good things about this movie that other people are not saying. Let's get into what I do, man. The four golden rules of horror. This movie is not immune to it. The classic was because they hadn't been established at that point, but this one, I got to give it to them. But you already know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it anyways. Golden rule number one: don't show me the monster. Shut the fuck up. You already know what I'm going to say about that, dude. Rule number two: be scary at all times, not just when the threat is on screen. This movie is scary at all times, even though Orlock might not be on screen. And it's not because of the possession aspect or the he can transcend distances aspects. It's strictly because of the terror and dread that is being portrayed on these actors' faces. The acting in this movie is carrying the fear of this movie from Transylvania to Germany, dude. Every face just has the face of dread, and you feel it. You feel the gravitas of Orlock, even if characters who don't believe it it, the acting, this is the first time I think that the acting has really been the sole reason why it's scary at all times.
Mhm.
That's amazing. Golden rule number three: don't rely only on jump scares. This movie's got a good amount of jump scares, and they're good. They're good jump scares. Some of them are stupid. Some of them are kind of dumb, like where Orlock's standing over Hutter while he's on the floor, and then it flashes to Lily Rose Depp naked, and then it flashes back. Or like when they're doing something on the couch and she like sits up and she's got like the Billie Eilish blood flowing out of her eyes. That's dumb to me. But the scares of this movie don't come from the jump scares, thankfully. They come from the dread, they come from the acting, and they come from the next scene I'm going to talk about. You know it. Golden rule number four, the hardest rule to achieve: push the boundaries. You did it. And I thought you weren't going to do it, but you did it, man. And you did it with the one boundary I use as an example, my guy. You did it. And you were so close to not doing that. Absolutely phenomenal. You get 4 out of 4 golden rules. That jettisons you from F territory straight into A territory. I feel great about this. I don't know yet if I feel okay putting this in my top 10 horror movies. Um, Definitely need to spend more time with it before that's even discussed.
Yeah,
Top 20 of all time. I'll entertain that. Top 10, we gotta sit with a little bit longer, but top 20 for sure. This movie gets an A from me, and I don't give out A's lightly.
no,
So, hell yeah, Nosferatu. You killed that shit. Whatever you got, I need. Give me 14 of them right now. Dude, I'm gonna talk in circles all night, dude. This is a masterpiece.
absolutely. I mean, there's nothing else we can say. Makes me feel good that I was not that I was the reason that you saw this film because I wasn't, but I feel good that I could show you the original, give you the appreciation for it. Then we go into this movie and it knocks it out of the park. It's a win-win for everybody.
Dude, I would have never seen the original. And I gotta say, peop there's people on IMDb user reviews that are saying the original's better, buddy. Okay. First of all, no one's looking at you. No one's hearing you say that. Okay. Stop acting like that. And second of all, that's like saying the best apple pie you've ever had is nothing compared to the first apple pie ever made. That's stupid. That's a stupid take. I'm sorry. It is. There is no way this is objectively worse than a silent film that lasted 38 minutes. Okay. So that's not a that's not a good take, man. And anyone who speaks ill of this movie, I implore you to see it at least a second time. Your pacing issues, that'll be solved. I I had pacing issues the first time I saw it, but it's because I just wanted more Orlock.
Yeah.
Once I understood the story beats and once I understood where he was coming and I could focus my anticipation energy into something else, the pacing was fine. The story beats were fine. That second act, that middle stretch with the boat, that's fine. I knew when Orlock was going to appear, I could focus on other things. So that's fine. And if you still hate it, if you still hate the movie after your second viewing, it, it, you haters kill me. You Nosferatu vampire bit my shit is all I have to say about that. You know what I'm saying? This movie's art, and if it's anything less than an 8 out of 10, you're wrong.
I will say this last part and then I'm going to get out of here. I've seen a lot of people say it's good, but it's not nearly as good as people are hyping it up to be. I don't maybe I need to listen to more of those reviews before I don't know, but I didn't want to watch those and like bring my mood down
Well,
because I just felt like I really like this movie, so I'm gonna stick with that.
that's why I don't watch reviews or look at reviews regularly. I think people have a lot of expectations for scariest horror movie of the year, and that's not what this is. You want scary vampire movies? There are scary vampire movies. This isn't here to scare you. It's just in the horror genre because it is Dracula.
Well, I know one thing I can tell you for certain is that this will be the first Nosferatu review on YouTube that's over 2 hours long, probably even over
Good.
an hour long. So if you like this movie and you like how we break it down, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let us know that you had a good 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys. We ended the year with probably the best film of the year. Thank you guys for sticking with us for 2024. We can't wait to see what 2025 offers. Got some good stuff coming in January. And just like SpongeBob Nosferatu said, I'm going to flick off this light switch.
And who's flickering the lights?
And now I'm going to go to bed.
There you go. Take
Good
heed.
night.
What you do. Good night, everybody.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
The mummy has now been located.
The living mummy. The living mummy.
Bullets won't stop.
Some creature out of time.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
He's completely out of control.
I saw those bodies.
Is he a man or a monster?
You actually knew a werewolf in a peaceful town where nothing ever happened.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
In the mystical regions of Transylvania.